Coming up next on Let's Refresh with Apostle Stephen A. Davis.
So many, you got so many friends, you never talk to the wall. Every time we turn around, you got a friend here, you got a friend there, you got a friend here, you got a friend everywhere. But every now and then, when you're in a serious situation, you just need a blank wall. I am so excited in this season. I'm not just excited for me, I'm excited for you. Why am I excited for you? Because God has given me a word, and this particular word that he has given me is to tell you, no matter how bad it's been, it's going to be okay. I'm always happy when I get a word like this, because those who counted themselves out can count themselves in. I love a word like this because those who were borderline you weren't borderline. You had thrown in towel in and you had completely quit. This word gets you back into the game. I thank God for this particular word because there's a man who is sentenced to die, and then all of a sudden things turn around for him. I want you to just look at your neighbor, not for a long period of time, but just tell him there's a turnaround for you. Streamers, you type it in, there's a turnaround for you. See, so many people don't want things to turn around for you, and you'll know the people who don't want things to turn around for you, they're your enemies. The king of Assyria did not want things to turn around, but they did. And because those things turned around, something happened. And I want to just walk you through the life of Hezekiah because it's very important for what God wants to do in your life. I always preach and teach seasonally. I am right on it. I have the right word. I am in the right place. I am the right man. I can always tell I'm preaching in the right season because every season has a harvest. If I wasn't preaching in the right season, I wouldn't be getting the harvest. You are the harvest of the Lord. And I'm so glad you came to listen, and I'm so glad you streamed in because you are the validation that I'm preaching in the right season. I can't say I'm doing well and I don't have you. I'm going to say it again. I can't say I'm doing well and I don't have you. But since we are together, I'm doing extremely well. Aren't you glad that we are together? I'm glad that we are together. I don't want to be pastoring nowhere else. So I want to walk you through some things. There's a dilemma. Hezekiah, he's a ruler of God's people, and he has been walking through life, and he walks through several chapters, and he's a very good leader, and he's taking down everything that's offensive to God's people or that will cause God's people to detour from God's plan. So he has implemented so many things in his rule as a king to help the people stay on track with God. So he's doing that particular work, and he's doing well, and there's enemies and there's opposition with the Assyrians everywhere. They're impacting everything around them, but they're not impacting them. So while all this chaos is going on around them, while all these things are happening around them, it's not necessarily happening to them. Well, all of a sudden, without the enemy of the Assyrians there attacking them at the moment, all of a sudden Hezekiah gets sick. In the midst of him serving and serving well, a lot of people don't know what serving well is, but he was serving well. And while he was serving well, all of a sudden a sickness comes on him. And you know, he worked through it for a while. And you know how when a sickness starts, you know, first you think it's something simple, and then it matriculates to something a little bit worse, and it keeps getting worse and keeps getting worse and keeps getting worse. But he's still the king, and he's still doing his job, but he's got a sickness. And now how he's going to process this sickness is one thing, but now he needs to hear from God. And when he needs to hear from God, the report that he gets from the Lord through the servant of the Lord is not what he wants to hear. So he's working, he's serving, He's making sure that people are still attached to God. He's making sure that everything that should be happening in the temple is happening. But at this point, he can't even go to the temple because he has an ulcer and he couldn't get any blemishes on you. You couldn't go into the temple. So he's blocked out of the temple, but he's still making sure everything is taken care of. So he's serving really well. Don't get depressed. Don't get convicted if you're not serving well. You're about to serve well. So he's serving extremely well. He's upholding his responsibilities, and it seemed like a bad thing happened to a good person. See, some people seem like they deserve bad things, but Hezekiah was not one of those individuals that deserves something bad to happen. Right now, we're surviving, we're doing well, and the Assyrians hadn't overtaken us, and I seem like I'm holding the reins tight, and then all of a sudden, I get sick. So all of a sudden, Hezekiah gets sick. Where did this come from? I don't believe he saw it coming. I am sure he didn't see it coming, because anytime you're doing good, you expect good. Anytime you're being faithful, you expect God to be faithful to you. So while he's expecting faithfulness from God because he's been faithful, now the man of God comes and gives him a word. And when he comes and gives him the word, I'm sure he's expecting, the man of God is coming to tell me that the Lord is healing me right now. But the man of God, the major prophet shows up, and when the major prophet shows up, he tells Hezekiah, get your affairs in order, because you're going to die and you shall not live. Who, when they have been serving so well, want a death sentence? It's not that he's been manipulating systems. It's not that he's been in rebellion. It's not that he's been doing anything wrong. Everything he's been doing is right. He's in the right season. He's with the right person. He's doing the right thing. He's really upholding everything. And all of a sudden, he gets a prophecy from a major prophet. Minor prophets can be off sometimes. Major prophets are never off. So he gets a prophecy from a major prophet. He knows that Isaiah is a major prophet. This is the guy. If we're going to hear from God, this is the guy that we're going to hear from. If God's going to ever do anything, this is the guy he's going to tell it. And this is the guy that's standing over my bed right now while I'm sick. I'm not sure what's going to come out of his mouth, but whatever's going to come out of his mouth, I know it has to be from God. So he opens up his mouth. When he opens up his mouth, he begins to say to this king that has been faithful. He tells the king who has been faithful, get your house, get your affairs in order. Write out your will. Make sure whomever's supposed to get your place or your assets, make sure they are in line to get that. Get all of your affairs in order. Because what you've been believing for is not going to happen. In his first word, God is not going to raise you up. So go ahead and make sure your will is intact, because you're going to die. He hears, he receives, and then he responds. He hears, he receives, and then he responds. The Bible said he turned his face to the wall. Now, I just heard from a major prophet. I just heard from God's messenger. I just heard from the one who carries all the rank in the nation as far as heaven. I just heard from him. But I am going to turn my face to the wall. I am not calling a prayer chain, because half them don't like me anyway. I'm not trying to find somebody else that I can convince to tell me something different. I am going to turn to the wall. I am not consulting anybody else. I am going to turn to the wall. And I'm going to say, Lord, remember now. See, that's why you got to know your Bible. Because when you get a report that's not favorable and you've been faithful, you got to know how to turn to the wall. And you got to know how to start talking to the God of creation. I understand you sent a prophet. I understand you built the temple, but I need to talk to you right now, God. And I'm going to turn my face to the wall where no distractions are. So he turns his face to the wall. And you can see grace in his demonstration. People think just because it doesn't say grace in the King James Version, in the New King James Version, in the Amplified, in the Message, in the NIV, they think grace is not there. But grace has characteristics. There's certain things I do that my wife is very familiar with me concerning. She know if it's a certain way, she know I've done it whether she can see me or not. Well, grace has characteristics in the Old Testament. And the grace in the Old Testament, we're sure that it was an act of grace because these are the characteristics of grace. You ever had somebody to tell you that somebody done something and you knew that wasn't their characteristic? You said, no, any other, but not him, not her. No, there's no way. You can say whatever you want to say, but I've never seen those characteristics, and I spent a lot of time with them, and those type of characteristics are not there. Well, with the amount of time spent with grace, you understand that when he starts to pray, Hezekiah starts to pray and turn his face to the wall, all of a sudden he's calling on grace. I know what I just heard. I know what I was just sentenced to. I know what the doctor just said. I know what the attorney just said. I know what the judge just said. But because the judge knows all the laws, the judge knows the sentence for every crime that's committed. The judge knows everything. But I'm going to turn my face to the wall. I know he said you're not going to make it, but I'm going to turn my face to the wall because I know there's hope in grace. And if I can get grace to respond to me while my face is turned to the wall. No, I ain't texting nobody. I ain't emailing nobody. I ain't answering my phone right now. I ain't got time for them. I need to turn my face to the wall. See, most of you are trying to call somebody. No, I want to call on him. See, when you get in a condition, you don't need them because they're not your BFFs. So he's in a condition. I like his wisdom. I just got a report from the highest rank. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my face to the wall. And he turns his face to the wall. I don't know what it was about that wall, but that he had to see the image of somebody greater than the prophet that just came and spoke to him when he turned his face to the wall. Some of y'all think when you really have a serious conversation with nobody there that nobody hears. It's when you have a real conversation and you have a real in-depth relationship. That's when you experience the one that can respond. So many of you got so many friends you never talk to the wall. Every time we turn around, you got a friend here, you got a friend there, you got a friend here, you got a friend everywhere. But every now and then, when you're in a serious situation, you just need a blank wall. And see, that may be some of y'all's problem. You're telling too much of your business to your friend, and you need to be talking to the wall. I have never seen a wall respond like this before, but this particular wall that he was talking to got him the response he was looking for. I want to prophesy over you. You're about to get the response you're looking for because you're talking to the right wall. Grace is needed when you're making the final arrangements on an unwanted situation. Grace is needed when you're making the final arrangements on an unwanted situation. This is bad. It's real bad. Now I'm supposed to be making my final arrangements on this bad situation. But since I'm dealing with a bad situation and I don't want it, I am going to consult grace. Anytime it's bad and really bad and you don't want it, you need to start saying, Lord, remember me. He said, remember? See, some of you think you're in hiding. Some of you think your faithfulness is never seen. You have been so caught up in wanting a response from people, not knowing that there will be a day that you get a response from God. See, I'm sorry. I love refresh. I love the givers. Keep on giving because it helps you. We gave our way out of poverty. If you don't like what we have, you have to stop us from giving. That's not possible. So we've been faithful, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a condition or a situation every so often. And this particular condition was unwanted. He didn't want to hear that. When the last time you heard something and you were expecting a good report and you got a bad report, you said, I don't want to hear this. I just need a few hands. You got a report that you, so that's the majority of us. And the streamers, your hands are up too. So when you get a report that you do not want, I can't say he's going to change everything, but he is going to change something. If you ever get grace to step in while your face is to the wall, I'm sorry. No disrespect, but I need to have a wall conversation right now. No disrespect. I love you. I like hanging out with you, but you can't help me right now. So I need to turn to the wall and I need to have a conversation because I don't like this situation that I'm in. And I need grace, favor to show up on my life. I know you favor me, but you can't change my situation. I need one to favor me that has the ability to change my situation. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I got my boys, and they favor me, but they can't change my situation. And because they can't change my situation, I need to step over into another arena. I need grace. I need the favor of the Creator. I don't need the messenger of the Creator. I need the favor of the Creator. Some of y'all don't understand. You need to shift up just a little bit more. Some of y'all are in reliance on things that can't help you. Some of y'all are dependent on things that have already proven to fail you. But if you understand, if the grace of God shows up in your life, then you have an attachment with the favor of God that can change anything. Tell your neighbor he can change anything. He can change anything. He can change anything. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're dealing with, but he can change anything. Any verdict can be changed. I said anything that seemed to be settled can change. Grace came to change what was set. When you get a verdict, when you get a diagnosis, everything about you has to come into agreement and say, I don't want this. If they say death, you say, I don't want this. If they say poverty, you say, I don't want this. You got to turn your head and start having another conversation. Grace always says, somehow, some way. Somehow, some way. Somehow, some way. It's good to establish a record of serving before petitioning a request for more grace. Let me encourage you. I don't serve well for today. I serve well for the days to come. I never know how much I'm going to need the God that talks through the wall. See, everything can be perfect right now. And I'm serving well. But there may be a day, about 5 years from now, that I may need what I sold here to impact there. So I learned something. What I learned from Hezekiah, if I've been faithful right here, and I have a condition right here, I can bring up what I was doing back here and tell the wall. See, I may be up against the wall, but I got something to say. It may be tough, but I got something to say. See, what you don't understand, you don't want to have empty efforts when you're up against the wall. When you're up against the wall, you need to tell God, yeah, I was up in refresh. I was receiving everything Apostle Davis was saying. I gave when it was offering time. I was nice to the people next to me. I've been faithful at doing what I need to do. Even if it's a little faithfulness, you need to bring it back up. I challenge you with the little bit of faithfulness that you have, and you may be up against a wall right now. I start talking to the Lord about that little bit of faithfulness. This is one thing I know about God. A little bit of faithfulness can take you a long way. I don't care what they say your record is, because people don't keep good records. They'll give you an F on a day that you scored an A just because they don't like you. Even when people give you a bad score, doesn't mean that God gave you a bad score. So stop letting people grade you. Some of y'all around here thinking that you're failing out. No, you're not failing out. You just got the wrong person grading your test. When grace shows up in your life, there's nothing the devil can do to stop your comeback. And you're going to come back stronger. They underestimate the access that grace gave you. They saw you walk away. They saw your head down. They saw your countenance, but they didn't know who you were going to talk to. See, a lot of people think you don't have access. Grace gives you access. Titles don't give you access. Grace gives you access. I promise you, Hezekiah didn't turn his face to the wall and say, I'm King Hezekiah, ruler over Jerusalem. He did not start reading his resume. He said, Lord, remember now. I want to talk to you about what you remember. I want to talk to you about what you witnessed. I want to talk to you about what you gave me a guarantee on. I know the business failed, but I'm going to open up another business. I know the marriage failed, but I'm going to get you married again. Everything that failed, you better get ready, because God says, I'm reversing it. 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 Every foreclosure, I'm reversing it. They tried to tell you it couldn't happen, but grace stepped in and said, let it be so. Look at some Holy Ghost filled person. Tell them it is so. It is so. It is so. has this funny way of doing things. All Hezekiah wanted to do was live. But God has this funny way of doing things. Just like when Solomon, he said, just teach me how to go in and out amongst your people. He said, not only will I give you wisdom and knowledge, he said, I'm going to give you wealth and riches. So God always does something more than what you were asking for. See, when grace comes in, grace doesn't have the ability to just save your life. Grace has got to enrich your life. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 15 years. But not only am I going to give you 15 years, all that other foolishness that was going on around you, all those other threats to your sanity and your well-being.
This is Heart Health Awareness Month, and we want to make sure you're taking every opportunity to make sure that your heart is healthy. We want to encourage you to have regular exams. We want to encourage you to always pay attention to what's happening within yourself, because it's very important, because we want you to be here as long as God wants you to be here. So make sure you get your annual exam. Make sure you understand that this month is a month you do not want to omit, because this is Heart Health Awareness Month. So take advantage of this opportunity and make sure you're well, because good things are coming to you as long as you're here on this earth. God bless you. Well, I have a brand new book, and we have to get it in your hands. It is Kings Take Serpents by the Tail, Mastering Your Fears. Fear has tormented this entire globe through the pandemic, and we want to make sure that you have something in your hand to challenge the fear that's trying to challenge you. This book is sure to impact your life. It will show you how the thing that you feared may be the tool for your success. I want to make sure that you use every opportunity to overcome any type of obstacle that you may have been afraid of. But Moses was also afraid, but the staff turned into a serpent, and then when he grabbed it by the tail, it turned back into a staff. Go ahead, read the book. That staff that you were afraid of is now your tool for great success, to deliver you and also to deliver others. Get a hold of that book. It will tremendously bless your life. I look forward to hearing back from the results that comes from your read.
Want to find out more about Apostle Stephen A. Davis? Well, log on, because StephenADavis.org is now live. That's right, log on to StephenADavis.org now, and you can find out all about him, watch live broadcasts, and get all the information you need at StephenADavis.org. Available on all platforms. Log on today. Refresh Family Church. As we worship together, remember our 5 goals: serving the needs of families, reaching the lost, equipping the saints, reaching the nations, and transferring to generations. At Refresh Family Church, we're more than just a church. We're a nation. To find out more, log on to StephenADavis.org. We'll see you next time.